Mr. Sergeant of Arms, invite the members into the chamber and close the doors. I hereby declare the House of Representatives of the 113th General Assembly of the State of Tennessee now in session. Will the members please stand? Will the visitors in the gallery please stand and remain standing through the Pledge of Allegiance? Representative Hicks will introduce the chaplain of the day. Representative Hicks.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker and members, what an honor and privilege it is for me to be able to introduce our chaplain for the day. Pastor Johnny Carr is in his 43rd year of ministry. And over those 43 years, he's been the music and youth minister at East Rogersville Baptist Church, the pastor of Shepherd's Chapel Baptist Church, the pastor of Fairview Baptist Church in Sweetwater. And then currently we have him back at Shepherd's Chapel Baptist Church again, where he is my family's pastor. Pastor Johnny is a graduate of East Tennessee State University, as well as a retired educator in the Hawkins County school system. He and his wife, Patty, who's with him today up in the galley, have 3 children and 4 grandchildren. And I can tell you on this day, in 2 days from now, on that Wednesday, March the 1st, I don't know if he remembers where he was, but 20 years ago, he was standing in front of a little young boy and a good-looking young girl. My wife's with us today as well. And he performed the ceremony. For that wedding. Brother Johnny is been with my family through thick and thin. He is not only a pastor, but he's certainly a friend of the family because, quite frankly, he is family. So without further ado, Pastor Johnny Carr, will you please lead us in prayer?
I want to tell you what a privilege and what a joy it is for me to be with you today. And I also want you to know this is not something that's rare for me. I pray for you every day. I pray for my representatives and my senator and my governor. And I appreciate the work you do. Thank you. Let us pray. Father, as we come to you today, we want to thank you for the joy of being gathered together with health and strength and even the safety of traveling into Nashville. We thank you for that. Lord, I thank you for these men and women and the sacrifice they make to serve us and to serve our state. Lord, I pray a special blessing would be poured out upon them. Lord, I also ask, as the tasks that are at hand that need to be addressed, that you would bless them with wisdom, that you would give them the ability to discern, and then, Lord, give them the courage and the boldness to do what is right. And I pray that during this session, you would fill this chamber with your presence, and you would fill their hearts with your presence also and surround them with your love. And may they always know that they're greatly loved and greatly appreciated. In Christ's name we pray. Amen.
Representative Hicks will lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
Attention, salute, pledge. I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Mr. Clerk, please take the roll.
Roll call.
Mr. Clerk, please take the roll.
Mr. Speaker, 93 members present.
Let the journal reflect that Representatives Hastings, Camper, McKenzie, Love are excused. Next order, Mr. Clerk.
Welcoming and honoring.
Welcome and honoring Representative Halsey.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. On behalf of Representative Campbell and Representative Crawford and myself, I wish you would make welcome some of the members of the Sullivan County Commission that are right up there in the balcony. Make them welcome, please.
Representative Baum, you're recognized. Representative Baum.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I request that the Sergeant at Arms escort our guests into the chamber.
Mr. Sergeant of Arms, please escort the guests to the well. Representative Baum, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. It's going to be my honor to introduce the Boy Scouts. Before I do, let me invite other members who are Eagle Scouts or who participated in the Boy Scouts to come forward. And while they do, I'll share with you one of my more memorable experiences when I was a Boy Scout. My troop and I were camping by a river near the top of about a 6 to 8 foot waterfall. During dinner, the Scoutmaster instructed us not to wash our dishes, our mess kits, in the river. I did not think that the instructions applied to me, and so I took my mess kit with some Blue Dawn dishwashing suds over to the river and began washing my mess kit. Within 30 seconds, I began hearing gasps from the other Boy Scouts at the campsite. I looked up, they were all staring at me, and as the suds, the Dawn dishwashing suds that I'd washed my dishes with had gone down the 6 to 8 foot waterfall, I noticed that they were making a mountain of bubbles that were easily taller than the waterfall. The Boy Scouts were one of several groups that tried to teach me to follow instructions. They also taught me citizenship and patriotism, how to camp, how to tie a lot of knots, and I am grateful for that. To this day, being an Eagle Scout still means a lot. So with that, I'd like to introduce the Boy Scouts to you for a presentation.
Good afternoon. My name is Wyatt Hensley. I'm a Cub Scout from Pack 358. Today we are here to present you to Boy Scout of America report to the state of for the great state of Tennessee. We are here to present you we have a representative from each of the 6 councils come forward and present their report.
Whoa, not that they would move. My name is Brody Owens. I'm with Troop 224. I'm honored to be the delegate for the Cherokee Area Council, headquartered in Chattanooga, Tennessee, serving 8 counties in Southeast Tennessee. In 2022, our council had a total membership of 1,936 youth, served by 1,240 registered leaders in 92 units. We had 784 scouts attend summer camp, 6,794 recorded community service hours, and 37 Eagle Scouts. Would Ava Look please come forward?
My name is Ava Look, and I'm an Eagle Scout and founding member of Troop 1 in Olive Branch, Mississippi. I'm honored to be representing the Chickasaw Council headquartered in Memphis, Tennessee, serving Shelby County in Southwest Tennessee. In 2022, the council had a total membership of 3,728 youth, served by 1,188 registered leaders in 131 units. They had 1,712 scouts attend summer camp, 10,251 recorded community service hours, and 108 Eagle Scouts.
My name is Luke Williams. I'm a Sea Scout with Ship 46. Our ship was recognized this past year as the National Paddlecraft Sea Scout ship for the entire United States. It is my honor to be the delegate of the Great Smoky Mountain Council, headquartered in Knoxville, Tennessee. In 2022, our council served 5,918 youth, mentored by 1,723 registered volunteers. We had 2,135 scouts attend summer camp. Lastly, we are proud to have our Order of the Arrow Lodge host over 6,500 scouts at the National Order of the Arrow Conference this summer at the University of Tennessee. This was our 4th time hosting this national event.
My name is Matthew Pyle. I am a second-class scout with Troop 593. I am honored to be delegated for Middle Tennessee Council headquarters in Nashville, Tennessee. Serving 37 counties in Middle Tennessee and Fort Campbell, Kentucky. In 2022, our council had a total membership of 12,681 youth, served by 6,201 registered leaders in 388 units. We had 2,045 scouts attend summer camp, 61,369 recorded community service hours, and 291 Eagle Scouts.
My name is Alexander Hodgen. I'm a Cub Scout with Pack 37. I'm honored to be the delegate for Sequoia Council headquartered in Johnson City, Tennessee, serving 8 counties in Northeast Tennessee. In 2022, our council had a total membership of 2,199 youth served by 1,400 registered leaders in 102 units. We had 2,346 scouts attend summer camp and 8,265 record community service hours and 63 Eagle Scouts.
If I can turn the page. My name is Jack Carroll. I am with Troop 203. I'm honored to be the delegate for the West Tennessee Council, headquartered in Jackson, Tennessee, serving 21 countries in West Tennessee. In 2022, our council had a total membership of 1,440 youth, served by 560 registered leaders in 85 units. We had 315 scouts attend summer camp, 7,655 recorded community service hours, and 40 Eagle Scouts.
Good morning. I am David Olakule with Troop 621, and I'm honored to be the delegate to present the year-end report for the great state of Tennessee. Scouting served 27,902 youth members with 12,319 registered leaders, providing quality programs in 1,017 units from Memphis to Bristol and across the entire state. Also, we had 9,337 scouts take part in a resident camp experience with 182 recorded community service hours. Lastly, we had 663 scouts earn the Eagle Scout rank with the highest achievements in scouting by a youth. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for allowing us to come today and give this report on the accomplishments of the Boy Scout of America in the state of Tennessee for the great year of 2022. Thank you.
Representative Baum.
And Mr. Speaker, could we request your presence in the well for a picture?
Representative Chisholm, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Will the Black Caucus of State Legislators please meet me here in the well?
Everybody forgot their kente clause.
Representative Chisholm.
Mr. Speaker, I request the Sergeant at Arms escort our guests into the chamber.
Mr. Sergeant of Arms, please escort the guests to the well. Representative Chisholm, you're recognized.
Mr. Speaker, I request that the clerk read the resolution.
Mr. Clerk, please read the resolution.
House Joint Resolution 60 by Representative Jones and others, a resolution to recognize the Fisk University women's gymnastic team upon becoming the first HBCU gymnastics team to compete at the NCAA level. Whereas the members of this General Assembly are pleased, especially honor and commend those successful sports teams that through their magnificent exploits bring honor to Tennessee and serve as exceptional ambassadors of this state. And whereas one such team is the Fisk University women's gymnastic team, whose members have achieved an historic milestone this season by becoming the first historically Black colleges and universities team to compete in the NCAA gymnastics. And whereas the Fisk University Bulldogs made their history-making NCAA debut in the Super 16 event in Las Vegas, Nevada on January 6, 2023. And whereas competing against North Carolina, Southern Utah, and Washington at the event, Fisk ultimately finished in fourth place with an impressive score of 186.7. And whereas the Fisk University gymnastics team enjoy the stellar leadership and extensive gymnastic knowledge of head coach Corrine Tarver, who became the first Black gymnast to win an NCAA all-around title in 1989. And whereas the Fisk University Bulldogs exemplify the values of Fisk University, determination, excellence, and a commitment to a more just and equitable future, these values have consistently been at the forefront of women's gymnastics, and Fisk is proud to congratulate the remarkable student athletes on their tremendous success this season. And whereas the perseverance, determination, work ethic, and talent of this group of young women have not only made possible a history-making NCAA debut, but also surely bode well for their future success. And whereas the members of the General Assembly find it appropriate to pause in their deliberations to acknowledge and applaud the members of the Fisk University women's gymnastic team for their outstanding performance in their inaugural season, now therefore be resolved by the House of Representatives of the 113th General Assembly of the State of Tennessee, the Senate concurring, that we hereby honor and commend the members and coaches of Fisk University women's gymnastic team upon becoming the first historically Black colleges and universities gymnastic team to compete at the NCAA level, and extend to them our best wishes for every continuing success in all their future endeavors.
Representative Chisholm, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Members, friends, and people onlooking, as we come to the end of what we recognize as Black History Month, understanding that Black history is every day, many of us realize that Black history is Tennessee history. It is American history. It is world history. Therefore, today I'm inspired to honor trailblazers, both past, present, and future. Harriet Tubman once said, "Every great dream begins with a dreamer." Always remember, you have within you the strength, the patience, the passion to reach the stars, to change the world. We stand on the shoulders of so many great dreamers that have changed the world. Dreamers such as Samson Keeble, who was born in 1833 in Rutherford County as a slave, but ended up being the first Black male to ever serve in our state legislature. Dreamers such as our beloved Barbara Cooper, whom told us all stories about when she couldn't drink at the same water fountains as many of her peers. But now she served long enough to become the oldest to ever serve in this chamber. As history is still being written, we, the Black Caucus of State Legislators, want to pay homage and introduce you to the next generation that are holding the pen of history. The Fisk University, right here in Nashville, Tennessee, is the first HBCU to have an intercollegiate women's gymnastics team. The Fisk University Gymnasts are the first HBCU to compete in the National Collegiate Athletic Association level. Our illustrious coach, Coach Corrine Tarver, her 5 staff members, and her Fighting 15 have shown that the inaugural season is just the beginning for those students who hope to continue to shatter barriers and open the doors for other HBCUs to tumble in their footsteps. Allow me, Fisk University, to encourage you as Benjamin Elijah Mays encouraged a young Martin Luther King in the chapel of another HBCU, Morehouse College, where I come from. It says, whatever you do, do it so well that people looking on will feel that the task was reserved, especially to you, by God himself. For every man and every woman is born into the world to do something unique and something distinctive. And if he or she does not do it, it will never be done. So ladies, remember, freedom lies in being bold. Fisk University, we salute you.
Yeah, baby.
Representative Chisholm.
Speaker, if we could have some words from our coach, Corrine Tarver.
Coach, you're recognized.
Good evening, and thank you, Speaker Sexton, Speaker Sexton and Representative Chisholm for this great honor. I'd like to thank all of you for recognizing the Fisk University and the gymnastics team in its inaugural season. Growing up, there were only a handful of African-American gymnasts. Experiencing how far the sport has come is encouraging. However, we still have a long way to go. Representation within the sport is vital. Seeing the young minority girls who look up to the women standing here and to hear their goals of attending an HBCU and doing collegiate gymnastics is inspiring. I look forward to the continuation of more HBCUs adding so that we can see how far this sport really can go. And I want to thank all of you here today.
Representative Chisholm.
Speaker, if you could join us for a picture.
All right, we're back on welcome and honoring Representative Johnson of Montgomery.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. On behalf of Representative Burkhart and Representative Glenn, we have some special guests in the gallery to our left. From Montgomery County, we have the Montgomery County Mayor, Wes Golden, Chief of Staff for the county, Lee Harrell. We have some county commissioners with us, John Gannon, Mayor Pro Tem of the county, Joe Smith, Tangi Smith, David Shelton, and Rashida Leverett. Let's give them a warm welcome.
Representative Lafferty.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I just wanted to welcome our old friend Martin Daniel, former state representative. He's come to join us here in the back of the house. Give him a round of applause. Thank you.
Representative Parkinson, is he in here? We'll come back to him if he's not. All right. Representative Wright.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Entering my 5th year of the County Commissioner Recovery Program, it's my honor to introduce members of Knox County Commission that are currently here in attendance up to my left. Welcome Chairman Durrett, Olster, Lee, Frazier, Schoonmaker, and Ward. On an 11-member body, I think they have a quorum, so they may be calling on here in a minute. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Representative Hicks of Washington.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I'd like everybody to make welcome with Representative Alexander and I. The Washington County Commission is here on my right, and an old friend, Doug Jones from the Washington County Highway Department. Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. Make them feel welcome.
Thank you. Representative Sapicki.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Members, we have some pages today from Murray County. I'd like you to wish them well. Ian Gibbon is age 15. He's going to Mount Pleasant as a freshman and playing for the football team at Mount Pleasant. He also is approved by the TSSAA to play soccer for Columbia Central. Also, Zeke Gibson, age 6.5, I was told to say, from Zion Christian Academy. He's in kindergarten and enjoys the Reading Olympics. Their mother, Tia, is here. Members, if you'll welcome them to the General Assembly.
Representative Ritchie at Moon's desk.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. On behalf of myself and Chairman Moon, we'd like to recognize several of our members from the Blount County Commission that have traveled down here to be with us today. If you don't mind, everybody give them a round of applause. Yes.
Representative Martin Hamilton.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. We are proud, those of us from Hamilton County, Chairman Hazelwood, Chair Lady Hazelwood, Helton Haynes, and Mr. Vital, and Representative Hakeem, to have members of the Hamilton County Commission that are here this evening. Hamilton County has one of the most diverse county commissions, and yet I've never seen political civility. And I want to in the way that it's demonstrated there, and I want to recognize our chairman, Chip Baker, Lee Helton, and David Sharp that have joined us that are up here above me. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Representative Russell.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Representative Butler, Representative Fritz, and I'd like to make welcome the Loudoun and Roane County delegation, Mayor Buddy Bradshaw, Road Superintendent Billy Pickle, Commissioner Billy Geames, Commissioner Rosemary Hines Quillen, Commissioner Joe Morrison and his wife Lisa, Commissioner Will Jenkins.
And from the Roane County, we'd like to make welcome County Executive Wade Cresswell, Ben Wilson, David Brackett, Travis Parks, Ron Berry, Lance Duff, Brad Goss, Ben Gann, and Shannon Hester. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you. Representative Shaw.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. On behalf of Chairman Chris Todd, myself, we want to welcome Madison County's Mayor A.J. Massey and his guest, who's here with us this evening, and also from Hardeman County. Want to recognize our Hardeman County Mayor. That is none other than Mr. Todd Pulse. And if he has any guests, his guests as well in the balcony. So if you would help me make them welcome, we'd appreciate it.
Representative Darby.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I want to welcome a warm welcome to some of Tennessee's finest, our very own Weakley County Board of Commissioners. We could welcome them.
Representative Moody.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker and members. I also, to my left, would like to welcome two of our Tipton County Commissioners, David Copeland and Jonathan Murphy. Thank you for being here.
Representative Freeman.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I would like to welcome Peter Bryant, who is here serving as a page tonight. Peter, his parents, Sarah and Hayes, are family friends. Hayes is the troop leader of pretty much all the scouts in my district, and his mother is a fourth grade teacher and teaches my daughter. So welcome, Peter.
Representative Raper.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I'd like to recognize and honor the Cleveland High School men's and women's wrestling team. The Cleveland Blue Raider men's wrestling team has won 6 straight state championships, traditional and duals. That makes a total of 12 championships in 6 years. And the women this year won the traditional and duals. And it's the first time ever in high school history that a men's and women's wrestling team has won both the traditional and duals in 1 year. If you'll join me in recognizing and honoring them, please.
Representative Capley.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Representative Doggett and I would like to welcome and honor my county executive and our commissioner, County Executive David Morgan, Commissioner Dave Ray up there in the top right corner. Also, my constituent Johnny Hurd from Wayne County.
Representative Doggett. You got it. All right. Very good. Representative Farmer.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. And members, I try to do this every year, and I think I have wished my daughter, Caitlin Reese Farmer, a happy birthday. It's actually tomorrow, but it's hard to believe. I got sworn in, I believe I was standing right here, and my wife was pregnant with her. When I got sworn in, 2 weeks later, I went home and got to see my baby girl born. She's the love of my life, along my wife as well. But I want to wish Caitlin a happy birthday, even though she's not here. My heart's with her. Thank you.
Representative Hazelwood.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I'd like to ask you to join me, Chairman Helton Haynes, Chairman Vital, Representative Martin, and Representative Hakeem, in welcoming the Hamilton County Mayor, Weston Wamp, and some of his staff folks who were here. They may have stepped out, but again, make them welcome.
Representative Gillespie.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I just want to welcome on behalf of the entire Shelby County delegation, members here that are from the Shelby County Commission. If y'all could please welcome them and make them feel welcome. Thank you so much.
Representative Pearson.
Thank you, Chairman. I'm very grateful to the Shelby County Commission for appointing me. So thank you, Commissioner Thornton, Clay Bibbs, Caswell, and to the administrator, Coran, for being here. So that's one honoring. And the other, the Director of Education for District 86 is here in the back, who also happens to be my mother, Dr. Kimberly Owens Pearson. So make her welcome. Thank you.
Representative Campbell.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. First of all, tomorrow is my only sibling's birthday, my sister. She participated in a losing effort in what I call the Legends basketball game, where the former players get out there, play the girls varsity. Had a good time in Johnson County. Speaking of Johnson County, we have 4 folks from Johnson County with us that have driven down here. They've traveled about 5.5 hours to be here so the young folks can see the government in action. Charlie and Linda Thompson, their granddaughter Izzy, and her friend Sarah, if you'll make them feel welcome. Thank you.
Representative Jones.
Thank you so much, Mr. Speaker. I'm really excited today to announce my 7-year-old Paige, Tempe Laurent. Tempe is a future representative here, and in 2020 was with us when we were locked out of the building. And today, I'm happy to welcome you, Tempe, to the People's House. This is your house, and I'm so proud of you. And I hope to see you in these desks one day. Can you please make her welcome?
Representative Alexander.
Thank you, Speaker. Representative Hicks and I would like to welcome ETSU's finest pharmacy students up here in the far corner. Give them a big round of applause.
Representative Grills.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Representative Hurt and I would like to welcome Philip Dunlap from the Obion County Commission here. I believe he's up there. Good to see you and welcome. Also from Obion County, my good friend, Mayor Steve Carr. He's kind of like a father figure to me. We have a heck of a relationship, and I'm tickled to work with him. And to my left and to his right is Dyer County Mayor, Mayor David Quick, just one of the sweetest men you'll ever meet. It's been a pleasure working with you for the last 3-4 months, and look forward to working with you many more. Thank you, bud.
Representative Hardaway. Nope, you're good. Representative Parkinson, you're back. You're wanting to be recognized earlier. You're good. All right. Representative Johnson and Knox.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I rise to recognize a woman who was a mother and a grandmother who recently died in Knoxville. Her name was Lisa Edwards. There's a candlelight vigil for her tonight in Knoxville. In her last minutes, a lot of folks didn't listen to her. She knew she was in trouble and didn't get the help she needed. If you take a moment, please. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? It's okay. All right. Welcome and honoring. One once, going twice. We're out. Next order, Ms. Clark.
Introduction of resolutions.
Lear Lamberth, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. That all resolutions properly filed be introduced pursuant to Rule number 17 and placed on the consent calendar, refer to the appropriate stand-up committee.
Without objection. So ordered. Next order, Mr. Clerk.
Senate Joint Resolutions Congratulatory and Memorializing.
Lear Lamberth, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. That all Senate joint resolutions congratulating and memorializing line on the desk be placed on the consent calendar pursuant to Rule number 17.
Without objection. So ordered. Next order, Mr. Clerk.
Resolutions lying over.
Lear Lamberth, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. That all resolutions line over be referred to the appropriate standing committee.
Without objection. So ordered. Next order, Mr. Clerk.
Introduction of bills.
Lear Lamberth, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Move that House Bills 1,549 be introduced and passed on first consideration.
Without objection. So ordered. Next order, Mr. Clerk.
Senate bills on first consideration.
Lear Lamberth, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I move that Senate Bills 29, 46, 49, 54, 79, 103, 126, 160, 214, 246, 256, 261, 266, 284, 363, 367, 501, 583, 680, 721, 886, 953, 976, and 1,369, transmitted by the Senate, be held on the desk pending third consideration of the companion House bills.
Without objection, so ordered. Next order, Mr. Clerk.
Senate bills on second consideration, House bills on second consideration, petitions, memorials, reports from standing committees, reports of select committees, calendars. Mr. Speaker, the House is a consent calendar.
Chairman Zachary, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I move passage of the consent calendar on third and final consideration, keeping with Rule 50.
Gentleman moves passage of the consent calendar, probably second. Mr. Clerk, any objections? Been filed.
Mr. Speaker, item 8, House Bill 483 has been objected to by Chairman Clemens. Item 10, House Joint Resolution 23 has been objected to by Faison and Lamberth. Item 12, House Joint Resolution 124 has been objected to by Chairman Clemens. And finally, Mr. Speaker, item 57, House Joint Resolution 278 has been objected to by Chairman Clemens.
Anyone seeking recognition on the consent calendar? Representative Butler.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. In consultation with both leaders, I move that all members voting in the affirmative on House Joint Resolution 275 be listed as prime co-sponsors.
Without objection, exclusion is duly noted. Representative Parkinson at probably Camper's desk.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Item number 67, House Joint Resolution 0288. I would like for Shelby County delegation to be listed as co-prime sponsors first, and anybody voting in the affirmative be listed as sponsors also.
Without objection, exclusion is duly noted. Anyone else seeking recognition on the consent calendar? Seeing none, we're voting on the consent calendar. All members in favor vote aye when the bell rings. Those opposed vote no. Grills aye. Has everyone voted? Does anybody wish to change their vote? Mr. Clerk, please take the vote.
Ayes 94, no nays.
Having received a constitutional majority, I declare the consent calendar passed without objection. The motion reads here is tabled. Next order, Mr. Clerk.
Mr. Speaker, the House has a regular calendar.
Call it first bill, Mr. Clerk.
House Bill 1306 by Chairman Kumar and others relative to services.
Chairman Kumar, you are recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I move for passage of House Bill 1306 on third and final consideration.
Chairman Kumar moves passage following second. Mr. Clerk, call it first amendment.
House Commerce Committee Amendment Number 1.
Chairman Vaughn, you are recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. And this amendment will limit the services to the parking of a motor vehicle. Therefore, I resolutely move to adopt.
Chairman Vaughn moves adoption of amendment number 1. Probably seconded. Any discussion on the amendment? Seeing none. All those in favor of amendment number 1 say aye. Aye. All those opposed say no. The ayes have it. You adopted. Next amendment, Mr. Clerk.
Mr. Speaker, no further amendment.
Chairman Kumar, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Members, this bill addresses a situation where we use paid parking, and when it comes time to pay for the parking, the QR code does not work, and sometimes that is the only method of payment available. House Bill 1306 requires that if that happens, the vendor will accept payment in form of cash, check if available, or give information to the customer so the customer can call or mail the payment in. Customer will not be prevented from leaving. In case no attendant is present or otherwise only one method of payment is available, the vendor will provide an alternative method of payment which will be prominently displayed on a notice. With that explanation, Mr. Speaker, I renew my motion.
Chairman Kumar renews his motion. Any discussion on the bill? Representative Beck.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And Dr. Kumar, you and I had an opportunity a few minutes ago to discuss this bill. So I am at one of our downtown lots, and many of them are not manned. They say that you have to register your vehicle and your license plate and everything else with a QR code. And I've actually been in the situation where my phone didn't pull up the QR code. So explain to me exactly, I'm a patron, I'm in a lot, I try to pull up the QR code, but cannot. Tell me what my options are at that point.
Chairman Kumar.
There are two scenarios. In one scenario, an attendant is present. That attendant should accept cash or check from you or give you the information that you can call or mail the payment in. In the second scenario, if there is no attendant present, look for a sign that displays a phone or contact information that you can call and make the payment. If that information is not provided to you, you do not have an obligation to pay.
Representative Beck.
So I guess one of my concerns would be we're not opening up to people who are committing fraud and just say, I'm not going to pay because they didn't even try to get the QR code or whatever. So how can you alleviate the people doing business in a good faith manner?
Chairman Kumar.
I think we have to trust that most people are functioning in good faith. I think in that situation, the vendor would have a guarantee that a sign is available if that sign did give the person a phone number upon which they can call and make the payment, and the person still leaves without paying and makes no effort to pay, then the vendor would do the same thing that they do now for stealing of services, whatever their protocol is.
Representative Beck.
Very good. Thank you for those answers.
Leader Lambert.
Thank you, Dr. Kumar. Just want to appreciate you bringing the bill. If any of you have any type of cash money in your wallet, some of us still carry some of this, it says in it, this note is legal tender for all debts, public and private. There's not a scenario if you've got U.S. currency in your pocket where you should be trapped in a parking lot, and just because their technology doesn't work, you can't hand them a $5, a $10, a $20 bill, whatever it costs for the parking, and say, have a good day, I've paid you my debt, my private debt. So I wish the bill included a ton of other businesses. You and I have talked about this. It is a good start. As far as I'm concerned, if you're offering a service in this state, in this country, and somebody gives you cash money, you should accept that as payment for that debt, public or private. So Dr. Kumar, thank you for bringing the bill. I just want to rise and say I just signed on to it.
Out of order. Representative Freeman.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. And I can't believe I'm going to be the exact contradictory to the leader there. The fact that we are telling private property owners what to do with their property, it's not a right for people to park on these lots. It's a privilege. And if those property owners deem, because of a number of reasons, that they don't want to accept cash, they should be allowed to do it. And I'll give you a couple of reasons why. It cuts down on fraud. It cuts down on people robbing them. You can't rob a QR code, but you can hold up someone who is standing in a parking lot late at night with a bag of cash. There are numerous businesses that restrict the transactions in cash because of that liability and because of the possibility of crime. So again, I just want to make sure everybody here understands a body that talks about small government, private property ownership, private property rights, individual personal freedoms, free market capitalism. We're now telling people what they can and can't do on their own private property. This is going to create, if they are forced to man these lots, it's going to create an increased cost in the cost of parking. And again, this is a privilege. You don't have to park there. You can go anywhere else. You can find street parking. You can take a cab. You can walk, take a bus. But the fact that we're putting these restrictions on folks is going to drive up the cost. And I encourage everybody to think real hard as they vote on this. Thank you.
Chairman Kumar.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Thank you for reciting some of the great Republican values. As far as it being a privilege to be able to park, no, it is a service that the vendor has offered to provide, and you're using that service, and the vendor wants you to do it. It is in the vendor's interest to provide an alternative method of payment so the customer is not inconvenienced. Remember, the customer is always right, and the customer should have a right to pay in an alternative way. Now, it's not, I understand there is vandalism and robbery and other dangers involved in young people carrying cash late in these places. So it's not the only method. If they do not want to accept cash, this bill says that give the customer the information that the customer needs to be able to mail the payment or call the payment in, but do not prevent the customer from leaving because your system failed to work. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Representative Freeman.
Thank you for that. We're going to be back fixing this. I'm telling you right now. Thank you.
Representative Raper.
I just want to make one point. Back at home in Bradley County, we have a private business that will not allow cash payments, and we have several rural residents that do not have credit cards, that do not have other availabilities, and it puts them in a real bind. So to back up what Leader Lambert said about cash, our cash should be accepted anywhere. This is America.
Representative Powell.
Thank you. And I fully support trying to do everything we can to help those that are unbanked. I think there are a lot of different options to do that. But what I'm concerned about with this piece of legislation is that it opens up a slippery slope. And we're starting here with the parking industry, and this can go down the road. But I do have a very specific question. If you are an online, it's totally online or through your phone for the parking service, can you not say within your platform how to accept cash? You said that you would have to post notice at the parking lot or the parking space. Can you not do that through your app and have the payment called in or mailed in? Or is it just you have to literally post notice there physically?
Chairman Kumar.
Considering that the QR code did not work, I'm not sure about the reliability of the app. All that the vendor should do is provide an alternative, and that can be as simple as a sign that lists a phone number that the customer can call and make a payment.
Representative Powell.
Well, I get that, but if I'm talking about a service where it might not be a QR code, where you would actually be on an app and that you wouldn't even have a QR code, you would park through a parking app, which are becoming more and more regular. And I just want to say that, like this morning, actually I had the reverse situation occur to me or happen to me. I had a low tire pressure in my car. And so I tried to go to multiple places so that I could put cash, because I had cash, into a machine so that I could fill air in my tire. But a lot of the machines were broken and they wouldn't accept cash. And some of them didn't accept cards. They didn't accept anything. And so I had to go somewhere else. But I think the concern here that I have is, you could make the argument that I should have been given the air for free from one of these machines because they couldn't accept any form of payment. So I think we're kind of really headed down a slippery slope. And as technology advances, I think that there are going to be a need to come back and fix this. And I'm hopeful that we can really get to the core of the issue, which is to help those that are unbanked if we really want to focus on those people who don't have access to cash, as some other members have referenced. But thank you.
Representative Carringer.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I had not planned to speak on this till I heard this discussion. And I had an incident of this happen with an elderly couple in Knoxville, city of Knoxville, where all the parking lots have pretty much been bought out by out-of-county parking owners. And this particular owner was in Chattanooga. Elderly couple went to an event there at Tennessee Theater and tried to use the scan and their debit card, and the machine was broken. They had cash, but they couldn't leave cash. So they left and went on to their event for about an hour. Well, they had a ticket. Well, they immediately sent a money order to the place in Chattanooga to pay for their ticket. The place sent their ticket back and said, oh, you can't pay by money order. Gave them the runaround. They couldn't get a hold of them. And they were so upset because they were the people that paid for everything that they did. And they were so upset that it affected them. And I got a call about it, and finally finding out who owned the parking lot, and when somebody else called, but they had kept charging them interest. And so I very much support this because our elderly can't walk miles to the place, and you cannot always find certainly street parking. And that also requires a debit card in Knoxville. So I speak for our elderly especially because they are still a cash pay-as-you-go. And so I just wanted to say thank you for bringing this. And I think that should always be an option, and especially for our senior citizens. So thank you.
Representative Gillespie.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I call the question.
Question's been called. Any objection? I don't see any. So we're voting. House Bill 1306. All those in favor as amended, vote aye when the bell rings. Those opposed, vote no. Has every member voted? Does any member wish to change their vote? Ms. Clerk, please take a vote.
Ayes 75, 13 days, 3 present, on voting.
Having received House Bill 1306, having received a constant majority, I hereby declare passed without objection. Motion for reconsider is tabled. Call the next bill, Mr. Clerk.
House Resolution 8 by Representative Bolso, a resolution approving the amendments and revisions of Tennessee Rules of Criminal Procedure promulgated by the Supreme Court of Tennessee pursuant to provisions of Tennessee Code annotated Title 16, Chapter 3, Part 4.
Representative Bolso, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I move adoption of House Resolution 0008.
Representative Bolso moves adoption. Properly seconded. Mr. Clerk, any amendments been filed?
Mr. Speaker, no amendments filed.
Representative Bolso, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Members, this is the rules package that comes to us from the Tennessee Supreme Court. The rule that is before the body this afternoon simply amends Rule 49 of the Rules of Criminal Procedure to add as an additional means of service, electronic service of papers, including pleadings and other filings. Mr. Speaker, I renew my motion.
Representative Bolso renews his motion. Any discussion on the bill? Seeing none. Any objection to the question? Seeing none. All those in favor of House Resolution 0008, vote aye when the bell rings. Those opposed, vote no. Has every member voted? Does any member wish to change their vote? Parkinson's aye. Garrett's an aye. Chisholm's an aye. Grills is an aye. Mr. Clerk, please take the vote.
Ayes 93, no nays.
House Resolution 8, having received the constitutional majority, I hereby declare adopted without objection. The motion to reconsider is tabled. Call up next bill, Mr. Clerk.
House Bill 38 by Representative Bolso and others relative to retention of counsel to prosecute actions on behalf of the state.
Representative Bolso, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I move passage of House Bill 0038 on third and final consideration.
Representative Bolso moves passage. Probably second. Ms. Clerk, call up first amendment.
House State Government Committee Amendment Number 1.
Chairman Kiesling, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. The amendment does rewrite the bill. We'll defer to the sponsor for further explanation. We move to adopt.
Chairman Kiesling moves adoption. Amendment number 1, probably seconded. Any discussion on the amendment? Seeing none. All those in favor of amendment number 1 say aye, aye. All those opposed say no. The ayes have it. You adopted. Next amendment, Mr. Clerk.
Mr. Speaker, no further amendments.
Representative Bolso, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Members, this is a bill that seeks to amend 8-6-106 to vest in the Speaker of the House and the Speaker of the Senate the authority, should the need arise, to file an action on behalf of the state of Tennessee in federal court. The proposed legislation provides that any additional counsel, in addition to the Attorney General who would be retained to represent the state in this action, would provide services at no additional cost to the state. And there would be no fixed fee or contingency fee, but rather the services would be provided pro bono. Mr. Speaker, I renew my motion.
Representative Bolso renews his motion. Any discussion on the bill? Representative Parkinson, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. And I know my colleague from Shelby County wants a piece of this too, but I'm just, I named you my attorney in committee a couple of weeks ago, but I'm getting a little concerned. All of a sudden, you got this bill for the speakers as your first bill? Okay, what are we doing here?
Technically, it was second.
Answer that. You don't have to answer that. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Representative Clemens.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. And you were, Mr. Sponsor, you had referred to this bill not having a fiscal note and it not being cost to the state of Tennessee. Is there any process laid out in this legislation how that selection of attorney and finding of that pro bono counsel will be handled? What are the criteria for those counsel, aside from being pro bono, if any?
Representative Bolso.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. No, there is not. The retention of counsel is going to be left under the bill entirely to the discretion of the Speaker of the House and the Speaker of the Senate acting jointly.
Representative Clemens.
Thank you, Mr. Sponsor. I realize that you've only been here a little while, but sometimes the House representatives and the Senate don't always see eye to eye. Our speaker likes to take on the other speaker, so I'm wondering if there's any provision in this law that's going to resolve a disagreement between those two individuals, there being an even number, and how that tiebreaker is going to work out.
Representative Bolso.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. The way the legislation is crafted, it will require the consent of both houses of the General Assembly, the Speaker of the House and the Speaker of the Senate, in order to use this statute to bring an action on behalf of the state.
Representative Clemens.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and thank you. I was just curious if Speaker Sexton was going to have to seek counsel from Representative Campbell on how to properly give a DDT or something like that across the aisle. So thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you. Representative Hardaway.
Thank you, Speaker. To the sponsor, can you give us an explanation one more time on the bill?
Representative Bolso.
Yes, Representative Hardaway, I'd be happy to. What the bill does is it adds a new provision, a new subsection of 8-6-106 that authorizes the Speaker of the House and the Speaker of the Senate working jointly to retain counsel in addition to the Attorney General to represent the state of Tennessee in federal court. It also provides that the representation would be provided at no additional cost to the state. In other words, there'd be no fixed or contingent fee paid to counsel. The services would be provided as a public service.
Representative Hardaway.
Thank you, Speaker. So the council would have to agree with the position of the Attorney General, or would that counsel also be appointed? Is it possible to appoint counsel that has a different position than the Attorney General?
Representative Bolso.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. The legislation does not require any coordination between the General Assembly and the Attorney General's office. The Attorney General may have a position that is the same as that the Speaker of the Senate and the Speaker of the House do. The Attorney General might have a different position, or the Attorney General may have no position at all. This is simply a means by which the Speaker of the House and the Speaker of the Senate, acting jointly, can use the General Assembly to represent the state in federal court.
Representative Hardaway.
Thank you, Speaker. And why do we need this? What is it that's not working?
Representative Bolso.
One fact that you may be aware of, Representative Hardaway, is that several years ago, this body in the Senate passed a joint resolution that authorized the filing in federal court of an action regarding refugee resettlement. That case was dismissed at the federal district court level on the basis of lack of standing. That is, the court pointed out that under 8-6-101, only the Attorney General had the statutory authority to prosecute or defend cases in federal court on behalf of the state. That case was appealed to the Sixth Circuit Court of Appeals, which affirmed. The Sixth Circuit agreed that the joint resolution that both bodies passed was not sufficient to confer standing upon the General Assembly to prosecute that action. So what this statute does, Representative Hardaway, is it provides that statutory authority for the General Assembly to represent the state in federal court should the need arise in the future.
Representative Hardaway.
Thank you, Speaker. And the position that the pro bono council would take would be a joint vote of the chambers or merely the decision of the speakers, a consensus among the speakers?
Representative Bolso.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Every lawyer has to have a client. And in this case, the lawyer's client is the Speaker of the House and the Speaker of the Senate acting pursuant to the statute on behalf of the state. So whether you look at it as the attorneys representing the state or the attorneys representing the Speaker of the House and the Speaker of the Senate as its representatives, the attorney would be taking direction from both the Speaker of the House and the Speaker of the Senate with regard to any legal positions to be taken in the case.
Representative Hardaway.
Thank you, Speaker. And I just want to be clear. So the pro bono council would be representing the state of Tennessee, not merely the state legislature.
Representative Bolso.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Yes, that is correct.
Representative Hardaway.
Thank you, Speaker. I thought I was good at first, but now I've got some questions of whether we're impeding on the executive branch's territory. But thank you for your explanation, sir. Thank you, Speaker.
Thank you. Any further questions before we get the representative from Shelby County? Representative Vaughn, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Representative Gino Bolso, do you ever wonder how an Irishman like yourself got into this situation? I haven't yielded yet, sir. We'll give you your chance. Gino Bolso. Tell me your dog's not named Toto Bolso. Anyway, I understand that you're an attorney.
Representative Bolso.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I can't comment on your understanding, Mr. Chairman, but I am an attorney.
Representative Vaughn.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. You know something that's been said never? Hey, the General Assembly needs another lawyer. Not only that, a lawyer who's going to bring forward in his first bill a Business Development Act for other lawyers. And then on top of it, to bring his competence into question, he brings in a bill for jobs for lawyers that they don't get paid for. I have to say there, Representative Bolso, and going through your bill, we can talk about some of the technicalities where you don't even capitalize Speaker of the House or Speaker of the Senate. I thought people in those fancy law schools learned how to use proper punctuation, but I digress. I like the fact that you're putting lawyers to work for free, candidly. I don't think that was ultimately the intent, but hey, we'll take it. If that's good for you, that'll work for us. And by the way, we let you slide that first time around, number one, because I'm hungry and we got dinner reservations, but number two, because this is your first bill. And we want to honor you on your first bill and congratulate you if it passes. So thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Any further discussion? Seeing none, any objection to the question? Seeing none. All those in favor of House Bill 38 as amended, vote aye when the bell rings. Those opposed, vote no. As every member voted, does any member wish to change their vote? Mr. Clerk, please take the vote.
Ayes 82, 12 nays.
House Bill 38 having received a constitutional majority, I hereby declare passed without objection. Motion to reconsider is tabled. Call the next bill, Mr. Clerk.
House Bill 314 by Representative Vital and others relative to billing of services. Mr. Speaker, the Senate bill is on the desk.
Representative Vital, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I move to substitute and conform to Senate Bill 0266.
Representative Vital moves to substitute and form Senate Bill 266, probably second without objection. So ordered. Representative Vital.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I move to passage of Senate Bill 0266 on third and final consideration.
Representative Vital moves passage of Senate Bill 266 on third and final consideration, probably second. Mr. Clerk, call up First Amendment.
House Insurance Committee Amendment number 1, Mr. Speaker, same as Senate Amendment number 1.
Chairman Kumar, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. This amendment is the same as the Senate amendment. Move to withdraw.
Without objection, amendment number 1 withdrawn. Next amendment, Mr. Clerk.
Mr. Speaker, no further amendment.
Representative Vital, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Members, Senate Bill 0266, on behalf of the Department of Commerce and Insurance, with the passage of the Federal No Surprises Act in 2020 and its application to providers and insurance carriers in Tennessee, providers are now federally prohibited from billing patients in network facilities. The current provision was intended to provide protection to consumers from surprise billing by out-of-network providers for services offered at network facilities. There are references in the existing notification requirements of Title 56 and 68. The bill removes those notification requirements and removes all duplicative language, putting us in compliance with federal law. With that, Mr. Speaker, I renew my motion.
Representative Vital renews his motion. Any discussion on the bill? Representative Clemens.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Does this bill seek to weaken the federal protections in any respect?
Representative Vital.
It is my understanding it does not, strengthens it.
Representative Clemens.
So we are not going to have people being charged without notice for out-of-network services in Tennessee?
Representative Vital.
I would hope not.
Representative Clemens.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. And this bill seeks to strengthen that law.
Representative Vital.
It is my understanding, Mr. Speaker, the bill puts the federal law in place, which would remove any duplicative requirements, but also would strengthen it.
Representative Clemens.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Are there any additional administrative requirements of Tennessee patients above and beyond, or any other additional burdens on Tennesseans who seek care?
Representative Vital.
It's my understanding only what the federal government requires.
Representative Clemens.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you. Any further questions? Seeing none. Any objection to the question? Seeing none, we're voting. All those in favor of Senate Bill 266, vote aye when the bell rings. Those opposed, vote no. As every member cast a vote, does any member wish to change their vote? Powers aye. Mr. Clerk, please take the vote.
Ayes 93, no nays.
Senate Bill 266, having received constitutional majority, I hereby declare passed without objection. The motion reconsider is tabled. Call up next bill, Mr. Clerk.
House Bill 487 by Chairman Boyd relative to services.
Chairman Boyd, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I move passage of House Bill 487 on third and final consideration.
Chairman Boyd moves passage, public sector. Mr. Clerk, call up First Amendment.
House Commerce Committee Amendment number 1.
Chairman Vaughn, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. This amendment clarifies that cable service does not include streaming video content, regardless of the provider of the internet access service. Therefore, sir, I confidently move to adopt.
Chairman Vaughn moves adoption of amendment number 1, public second. Any discussion on the amendment? Seeing none, all those in favor of amendment number 1 say aye. Aye. All those opposed say no. The ayes have it. You adopted. Next amendment, Mr. Clerk.
Mr. Speaker, no further amendments.
Chairman Boyd, you recognize.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Members, House Bill 487 simply adds clarifying language to statute to clarify that streaming services are not obligated to pay cable franchise fees, similar to how cable or fiber are currently paid. Mr. Speaker, I renew my motion.
Chairman Boyd renews his motion. Let the journal reflect Representative Harris is excused. Any discussion on the bill? Seeing none, any objection to the question? Oh, Representative Towns, were you wanting to speak?
I do. Representative, I understand that from one of my colleagues over here, this may or may not be true. How does it impact the cable bill? Does it double the bill, triple the bill, or reduce the bill?
Chairman Boyd.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. It should have no impact on current cable bills.
Representative Towns.
Sure that it will not.
Chairman Boyd.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. It makes no changes. It just adds clarifying language to state what is current law, which is that streaming services don't have to pay franchise fees.
Representative Towns.
Very good.
All right. Any further discussion? Seeing none, any objection to the question? Seeing none. All those in favor of House Bill 487 as amended, vote aye when the bell rings. Those opposed, vote no. Has every member voted? Does any member wish to change their vote? Mr. Clerk, please take the vote.
Ayes 92, no nays.
House Bill 487 having received a constitutional majority, I hereby declare passed without objection. The motion to reconsider is tabled. Next bill, Mr. Clerk.
House Bill 281 by Representative Baum relative to expunction.
Representative Baum, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I move passage of House Bill 281 on third and final consideration.
Representative Baum moves passage, properly seconded. Mr. Clerk, call up First Amendment.
House Criminal Justice Committee Amendment number 1.
Chairman Holsey, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. This amendment rewrites the bill. I move adoption of House Criminal Justice Committee Amendment 1 and defer to the sponsor for further explanation.
Chairman Holsey moves adoption of amendment number 1, properly seconded. Any discussion on the amendment? Seeing none, all those in favor of amendment number 1 say aye. Aye. All those opposed say no. The ayes have it. You adopted. Next amendment, Ms. Clerk.
Mr. Speaker, no further amendments.
Representative Baum, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Currently in state code, it is possible to have certain misdemeanors and felonies expunged from one's record under certain circumstances. However, municipal judges believe that they do not currently have the authority to expunge certain municipal violations from municipal court records. This is a bill that would give them that authority to expunge municipal violations from municipal records. The kinds of things that this would cover would be parking tickets, traffic violations, codes violations within a municipality. Mr. Speaker, I renew my motion.
Representative Baum renews his motion. Any discussion on the bill? Seeing none, any objection to the question? Seeing none, all those in favor of House Bill 281 as amended, vote aye when the bell rings. Those opposed, vote no. As every member voted, does any member wish to change their vote? Mr. Clerk, please take the vote.
Ayes 91, no nays.
House Bill 281 having received a constitutional majority, I hereby declare passed without objection. The motion to reconsider is tabled. Next bill, Mr. Clerk.
House Bill 184 by Chairman Whitson and others relative to the Bureau of Ethics and Campaign Finance. Mr. Speaker, the Senate bill is on the desk.
Chairman Whitson, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I move to substitute and conform to Senate Bill 0159.
Chairman Whitson moves substitute and conform Senate Bill 159, probably seconded without objection. So ordered. Chairman Whitson.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I move passage of Senate Bill 0159 on third and final consideration.
Chairman Whitson moves passage of Senate Bill 159 on third and final consideration. Probably second. Ms. Clerk, call First Amendment.
House State Government Committee Amendment number 1. Mr. Speaker, same as Senate Amendment number 1.
Chairman Keesling, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. This amendment is same as the Senate's Amendment 1. We move to adopt. No, excuse me, we move to withdraw.
Without objection, amendment number 1 withdrawn. Next amendment, Ms. Clerk.
Mr. Speaker, no further amendments.
Chairman Whitson, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Members, this bill is part of the Bureau of Ethics and Campaign Finance's legislative package. Section 1 of the bill allows the executive director to hire or replace bureau support staff without board approval. The executive director, assistant executive director, and general counsel positions will still require approval from the board. Section 2 allows the bureau to remove uncollected civil penalties from the appropriate register once it has been determined that these penalties cannot be reasonably be collected. Candidates with unpaid penalties remain ineligible to qualify for election until the outstanding penalties are paid. PACs with unpaid penalties will remain prohibited from operating until the outstanding penalties are paid. Section 3 requires all filers to provide an email address to the registry or commission and allows the registry and the Ethics Commission to provide notice to filers via email. If email address is not available, they may send notices via first-class mail. The filer is responsible for ensuring that all contact information is correct and up to date to the registry. And with that, Mr. Speaker, I renew my motion.
Chairman Whitson renews his motion. Any discussion on the bill? Seeing none, any objection to the question? Seeing none, we are voting. All those in favor of Senate Bill 159, vote aye when the bell rings. Those opposed, vote no. As every member voted, does any member wish to change their vote? Alexander, aye. Mr. Clerk, please take the vote.
Ayes 94, no nays.
Senate Bill 159 having received a constitutional majority, I hereby declare passed without objection. The motion to reconsider is tabled. Call the next bill, Mr. Clerk.
House Bill 182 by Chairman Whitson and others relative to the Tennessee Ethics Commission. Mr. Speaker, the Senate bill's on the desk.
Chairman Whitson, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I move to substitute and conform to Senate Bill 0158.
Chairman Whitson moves to substitute and conform Senate Bill 158, properly second without objection. So ordered. Chairman Whitson.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I move passage of Senate Bill 0158 on third and final consideration.
Chairman Whitson moves passage of Senate Bill 158 on third and final consideration. Properly second. Ms. Clerk, call First Amendment.
House State Government Committee Amendment number 1. Mr. Speaker, same as Senate Amendment number 1.
Chairman Keesling, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. This amendment is the same as Senate Amendment 1. We move to withdraw.
Without objection, amendment number 1 withdrawn. Next amendment, Ms. Clerk.
Mr. Speaker, no further amendments.
Chairman Whitson, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. This is a Bureau of Ethics and Campaign Finance bill. This first two sections clarify when members and employees of the General Assembly must disclose campaign services to the Ethics Commission and eliminates the quarterly filing requirement and substitutes instead of yearly filing requirement. Current statute requires the Ethics Commission to provide an annual report to the General Assembly by the 1st of February. In recent years, the Commission has had to request a formal deadline extension. Section 3 of this bill moves at the due date from 1 February to 1 July, which allows the Ethics Commission additional time to compile and review the necessary data to report the information without requesting an extension. Section 4 of the bill clarifies which statutes the Ethics Commission can issue formal advisory opinions on. It also outlines the procedures the Commission must follow to ensure an informal advisory opinion. It states that people who adhere to the requirements provided in a formal advisory opinion or an informal advisory opinion made in writing will not be penalized if the opinion is later determined to be incorrect. With that, Mr. Speaker, I renew my motion.
Chairman Whitson renews his motion. Any discussion on the bill? Seeing none, any objection to the question? Seeing none. All those in favor of Senate Bill 158, vote aye when the bell rings. Those opposed, vote no. As every member voted, does any member wish to change their vote? Dargett, aye. Farmer? Aye. Mr. Clerk, please take the vote.
Ayes 93, no nays.
Senate Bill 158 having received constitutional majority, I hereby declare passed without objection. Motion to reconsider is tabled. Call the next bill, Mr. Clerk.
House Bill 353 by Chairman Russell relative to transportation of loose items and open beds of trailers.
Representative Russell, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I move to roll House Bill 353 to next Thursday. Yeah, next.
Okay. Without objection, roll to next Thursday. Call the next bill, Mr. Clerk.
House Bill 91 by Chairman Russell relative to confidentiality of records.
Representative Russell, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I move to passage of House Bill 91 on third and final consideration.
Representative Russell moves passage. Properly seconded. Mr. Clerk, call First Amendment.
House Civil Justice Committee Amendment number 1.
Chairman Farmer, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Move to adopt.
Chairman Farmer moves adoption. Amendment number 1, properly seconded. Any discussion on the amendment? Seeing none. All of those in favor of amendment number 1 say aye, aye. All those opposed say no. The ayes have it. You adopt it. Next amendment, Mr. Clerk.
Mr. Speaker, no further amendments.
Representative Russell, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. House Bill 91 will allow the Department of Children's Services to disclose information about a case to the public if all parties involved in the case, including the child, are deceased and all identifying personal information of the parties are redacted. Mr. Speaker, I renew my motion.
Representative Russell renews his motion. Any discussion on the bill? Seeing none. Any objection to the question? Seeing none. All those in favor of House Bill 91 as amended, vote aye when the bell rings. Those opposed, vote no. Has every member voted? Does any member wish to change their vote? Mr. Clerk, please take the vote.
Ayes 91, nay.
House Bill 91 has received a constitutional majority hereby declared passed without objection. The motion to reconsider is tabled. Call the next bill, Mr. Clerk.
House Bill 75 by Chairman Whitson and others, relative to limitation of criminal immunity. Mr. Speaker, the Senate bill is on the desk.
Chairman Whitson, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I move to substitute and conform to Senate Bill 0256.
Representative Whitson moves to substitute form Senate Bill 256, probably second without objection. So ordered. Representative Whitson.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I move passage of Senate Bill 0256 on third and final consideration.
Representative Whitson moves passage of Senate Bill 256 on third and final consideration, probably second. Mr. Clerk, call First Amendment.
House Criminal Justice Committee Amendment number 1. Mr. Speaker, it's the same as Senate Amendment number 1.
Chairman Holsey, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. House Criminal Justice Committee Amendment 1 is in the Senate bill. Therefore, Mr. Speaker, I move to withdraw.
Without objection, amendment number 1 withdrawn. Next amendment, Mr. Clerk.
Mr. Speaker, no further amendments.
Representative Whitson, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Members, this is an administration bill from the Tennessee Department of Mental Health and Substance Abuse Services. This legislation was proposed by the department's statewide Planning and Policy Council. In 2015, in an effort to encourage people to seek life-saving assistance, the Tennessee General Assembly passed a Good Samaritan protection law that offers immunity to individuals who call 911 or otherwise seek medical assistance for themselves or others due to a suspected drug overdose. Under the Tennessee's current Good Samaritan protection law, this immunity applies to a person experiencing a drug overdose only on that first such overdose, not additional ones. This bill is amended. We keep in place the immunity a person experiencing a drug overdose receives for their first such drug overdose, but we give the responding law enforcement officer or the District Attorney General's office discretion whether the immunity will be extended to that person for any other subsequent drug overdoses. When an individual survives a drug overdose, they have an opportunity to seek treatment or other recovery support efforts from the disease of addiction. They can repair relationships and make a positive impact on their community. With that, Mr. Speaker, I renew my motion.
Representative Whitson renews his motion. Any discussion on the bill? Representative Clemens, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and thank you, sponsor. And I appreciate the department for bringing this legislation. I think the intent of this law is strong. My concern is about how it's kind of evolved through the amendment process, whereby it's going to be at the discretion of the responding law enforcement officer or the District Attorney General's office whether or not to prosecute. And also, it's only going to apply to the person's first such drug overdose, as you stated in your statements. Generally, it is currently under law up to the discretion of the responding law enforcement officer whether or not to take action to arrest someone or charge someone at that moment upon finding them. So I guess my question to you is, the definition of someone who seeks medical assistance could be the Good Samaritan. It could be the person who's had the overdose. So I'm afraid, what happens if someone has, let's say they've used their one strike before, and now they've got a friend dying of a drug overdose, and now they're afraid to call law enforcement because they've already got that one strike against them? Are we passing this law? Are we weakening the Good Samaritan intentions of the department and going to ultimately prevent people from seeking help?
Representative Whitson.
Yes, and thank you, sir. And I appreciate that question and your concerns, and that is true. But this law actually makes it better. Currently, they only allow one strike. This also now makes it up to the discretion of the district attorney and the responding officer. Sometimes people need to get into the court system to get the treatment, ordered to treatment that they need. And this is I think, a good first step in this. It does not, like you said, gives it continuous immunity, but it also now leaves it up on the second one to the responding officer or the district attorney, which they do not have now.
Representative Clemens.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and thank you for that. I appreciate it. How is the responding law enforcement officer going to know whether or not that individual has already used that one strike at the scene?
Representative Whitson.
Mr. Speaker, yes. Right now, that officer may not know. This may be their first strike. That's one part of this bill. But right now, again, if it's a repeat offender and that officer knows it, that district attorney, they will know if that's the second or third time.
Representative Clemens.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and thank you for the legislation. I appreciate the Department of Mental Health, and I hope that we will seek to continue to fund and increase funding as we've done in the past for drug courts and mental health care courts and facilities. Once people do get into the system, as you said, I think having Good Samaritan laws is very important. We need to have compassion. This is addiction is exactly that. This isn't something some people have control over, and we need to do everything we can to make sure that they're getting assistance. I'd rather them do it outside the system. I think if you consider this to be a good first step and the intent is good, and I certainly don't question the intent of the Department of Mental Health and Substance Abuse Services. So with that, I support the legislation, but I think we need to strive to keep people out of the system, to get help into the community, make sure mental health care services are available, substance abuse services are available, and full compliance by the state of Tennessee with the Mental Health Care Parity Act and Substance Abuse Equity Act passed by the federal government in a bipartisan manner. If we do that, I think we're going to see less of these instances, less of a need for this. So thank you for your intent of this legislation. I appreciate the department's support of this. I'd love to strengthen it. Let's try to make sure we're getting these individuals, whoever they may be, help inside or outside the system. Thank you.
Representative Whitson.
Thank you, Leader Clemens, and I would look forward to working with you next year on more legislation in this area. Thank you.
Thank you. Representative Pearson.
Thank you, Speaker. I am concerned about this legislation, particularly because I do think about the Good Samaritan story in the Bible. And in the story, we hear just about one person passing another person and the kind one stopping and helping them. But what if the person who was beaten and harmed or hurt needed help again? And this legislation seems like, well, if that's the case, then, well, it's only up to the district attorney. It's only up to law enforcement to determine whether or not these folks deserve mercy. And I believe that's wrong. And you mentioned in your comments, and I have a question for you about this, that there will be an opportunity for people to be able to get helped. Is there in this legislation money and resources that are going to be provided for people who are dying of the opioid epidemic across the state of Tennessee, of which there was about 712 in 2021?
Representative Whitson.
Yeah, thank you for those comments. Yes, this is actually an improvement over the current law right now. They only get one strike under the current law. Under this, it's up to the discretion of the responding officer or the district attorney. Already there are programs that we budget to help people with substance abuse in these issues. And I've always supported those in the past, and we'll support those again in the future.
Representative Pearson.
Thank you for that. I appreciate it. Why wasn't the intent to increase the amount of strikes that someone gets versus leaving it to the discretion of law enforcement, which means that it'll be inequitably applied? Because you can no longer be sure that a person who gets an overdose in Davidson County actually gets mercy compared to someone in Shelby County. It's left up to folks who are going to have inequitable application of this law across our state, which means there's going to be inequity embedded in our legislation, which we shouldn't want to do.
Representative Whitson.
Well, I understand your concern. Again, under current law, they're only allowed one strike. This also will allow the discretion of responding officers and the district attorney to extend that. And I think they know these people, and they will be looking at the best interests of these people in the future. And it's also, sometimes it's better to get them in the court system so they could be ordered to treatment rather than just in a voluntary manner.
Representative Pearson.
Yeah, I don't think getting people more involved in court systems and in law enforcement and that stuff on their record is good. I do think there needs to be rehabilitation and opportunities for diversion that are provided, and look forward to seeing in the budget where you all are asking for tens of millions of dollars for that types of treatment, because I most certainly would support that. But again, I think a good amendment here would be to extend or increase the amount of immunity that someone gets versus just saying it's up to the discretion of these officers, because maybe they do know them and maybe their relationship is good. And so they get 3, 4, 5 strikes, but maybe it is not. And they get sentenced not only to a diversion program, if one exists, but to prison because they're sick. And that isn't what any of us want, particularly in rural counties where we know this opioid epidemic is highest in our state. Thank you.
Representative Whitson. Good. Any further discussion? Seeing none. Any objection to the question? Seeing none. All those in favor of Senate Bill 256, vote aye when the bell rings. Those opposed, vote no. Has every member voted? Does any member wish to change their vote? Mr. Clerk, please take the vote.
Ayes 91, 1 nay, 1 present, not voting.
Senate Bill 256, having received a constitutional majority, everybody declare passed without objection. The motion reconsider is tabled. Call the next bill, Mr. Clerk.
House Bill 249 by Leader Lamberth and others relative to appeals from General Sessions Courts.
Leader Lamberth, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Move passage of House Bill 249 on third and final consideration.
Leader Lamberth moves passage, followed by second. Mr. Clerk, call the First Amendment.
House Civil Justice Committee Amendment number 1.
Chairman Farmer, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Members, what this amendment does, it allows for when an individual goes in front of the court for a detainer action and obtains a judgment for their property, there's a 10-day window for appeal. Under current law, that person would have to come back and ask for what's called a writ of possession if that person decides to not exercise their appeal within that 10 days. So they actually have to go back to court and ask the court to give them that writ of possession. What this would do would allow the court, or allow the writ of possession by operation of law, to go ahead and execute upon the expiration of the 10-day appeal period. Save the court's time, save the clerk's time, and save the party's time as well if no appeal is taken. So with that, Mr. Speaker, I move to adopt.
Chairman Farmer moves adoption of amendment number 1, probably seconded. Any discussion on the amendment? Seeing none. All those in favor of amendment number 1 say aye, aye. All those opposed say no. The ayes have it. You adopted. Next amendment, Mr. Clerk.
Mr. Speaker, no further amendments.
Leader Lamberth, you're recognized.
Mail motion.
Leader Lamberth renews it. I got it. Leader Lamberth renews his motion. Any discussion on the bill? Any objection to the question? Seeing none. All those in favor of House Bill 249 as amended, vote aye when the bell rings. Those opposed, vote no. Campbell, aye. As every member voted, any member change the vote? Spicky, aye. Doggett, aye. Mr. Clerk, please take the vote.
Ayes 92, no nays, 1 present, not voting.
House Bill 249, having received constitutional majority, hereby declare it passed without objection. Motion reconsider is tabled. Let the journal reflect. Representative Freeman is excused. Call up next bill, Mr. Clerk.
House Bill 180 by Chairman Howell relative to electric vehicles. Mr. Speaker, the Senate bill is on the desk.
Chairman Howell, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I move to substitute and conform to Senate Bill 210.
Chairman Howell moves to substitute and conform Senate Bill 210, properly seconded without objection. So ordered. Chairman Howell.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I move passage of Senate Bill 210 on third and final consideration.
Chairman Howell moves passage of Senate Bill 210 on third and final consideration, properly seconded. Mr. Clerk, call First Amendment.
House Transportation Committee Amendment number 1. Mr. Speaker, it's the same as Senate Amendment number 1.
Vice Chairman Vital, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Same as to the Senate amendment. Move to withdraw.
Without objection, amendment number 1 withdrawn. Next amendment, Mr. Clerk.
Mr. Speaker, no further amendments.
Chairman Howell, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. This bill aligns state law with current federal law, members. A few years back, the federal government increased the weight limits for semi-trucks on semis that were now being now using natural gas, and they increased the weight limit from 80,000 to 82,000 pounds for the federal highways
And Tennessee at that time followed suit and increased the weight limit on our state roads. The federal government has now done the same thing for semi-trucks that are powered by battery power. And they have already done that, and we have been asked to align state law with federal law for those battery-powered trucks. So, Mr. Speaker, with that explanation, I move passage.
Chairman Howard renews his motion. Any discussion on the bill? Seeing none, any objection to the question? Seeing none, all those in favor of Senate Bill 210 vote aye when the bell rings. Those opposed vote no. Is there a member cast vote? Is there a member change vote? Mr. Clerk, please take the vote.
Ayes 91, nay.
Senate Bill 210 having received constitutional majority, I hereby declare passed without objection. The motion reconsiders tabled. Chairman Faison, for what purpose?
Thank you. I'll wait just a second, sir. Come to me when on the bill. Or, Mr. Speaker, Mr. Speaker, I move to roll item number 14 till Thursday morning's regular calendar.
Second. Without objection, so ordered. Chairman Faison, why don't you just do the whole calendar in one motion, sir?
Mr. Speaker, I move the rest of the calendar till Thursday's morning.
Without objection, so ordered. Next order, Mr. Clerk.
That completes the regular calendar, Mr. Speaker.
Next order, Mr. Clerk.
Unfinished business.
Unfinished business. Representative Miller.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I move that the rules be suspended for immediate consideration, SJR number 290.
Mr. Clerk, please read the caption.
Senate Joint Resolution 290 by Representative Miller, a resolution to honor and recognize the Links Incorporated.
You heard the caption. Any objections? Without objection, the rules are suspended. Representative Miller.
I move to concur, SJR 290.
Representative Miller moves to concur in Senate Joint Resolution 290, properly second. Any objection to the question? Seeing none. All those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed say no. The ayes have it. I declare concurrent without objection. The motion reconsiders tabled. Representative Reagan.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I move that the rules be suspended for immediate consideration of SJR 291.
Mr. Clerk, please read the caption.
Senate Joint Resolution 291 by Chairman Reagan, a resolution to honor and congratulate James E. Steele Sr. on the celebration of his 90th birthday.
You've heard the caption. Any objections? Without objection, the rules are suspended. Chairman Reagan.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I move to concur in Senate Joint Resolution 291.
Chairman Reagan moves to concur in Senate Joint Resolution 291, properly seconded. Any objection to the question? Seeing none. All those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed say no. The ayes have it. I declare it concurred in without objection. The motion reconsiders table. Lear Lambert.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I move that House Bill 160 be heard in Department Agency Subcommittee this week.
You've heard the motion. Any objections? Without objection, so ordered. Lear Lambert.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Move that the rules be suspended for immediate introduction and consideration of H.R. 29.
Mr. Clerk, please read the caption.
House Resolution 29 by Leader Lambert, the resolution to congratulate Oakmont Elementary School upon being named National ESEA Distinguished School.
You've heard the caption. Any objections? Without objection, those rules are suspended. Lear Lambert.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Move adoption of H.R. 29.
Lear Lambert moves adoption of H.R. 29, properly seconded. Any objection to the question? Seeing none. All those in favor of House Resolution 29 say aye. Aye. All those opposed say no. The ayes have it. I declare it adopted without objection. Most reconsiders table. Next order, Mr. Clerk.
Announcements.
Announcements. I don't see any. Oh, come on now. Y'all rolled all these bills to do announcements. Chairman Terry, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. The Tennessee Pharmacists Association is at the Sheridan Grand Hotel in the Sky Lounge, and they would love for us to drop by.
Very good. Chairman Halsey.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Just want to remind everybody of Capitol Commission Bible Study in the morning at 7:30 and 5C.
Representative Moon.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. The last calendar in the City and County Subcommittee will be Wednesday, March the 15th. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you, Chairman Faison. Nope. Any further announcements? Seeing none. Next order, Mr. Clerk.
Roll call.
Roll call. Ms. Clerk, please take the roll.
Mr. Speaker, 93 members present.
Next order, Ms.
That
Clerk.
completes the regular order, Mr. Speaker.
Leader Cochran, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I move the House stand in recess until 9 a.m. on Thursday, March 2nd, 2023.
Without objection, the House stands in recess till 9 a.m. on Thursday, March 2nd, 2023.